Chapter 1. A Man in the Fog. It was a cold, foggy evening in London. The streets of Baker Street were quiet, and the gas lamps gave a soft yellow light. People hurried home, their faces hidden under hats and scarves. Albert Finch, a 35-year-old private detective, stood at his window. He sipped black tea and watched the fog roll in. Suddenly, someone knocked on his door. When he opened it, he found a young woman, shaking and wet from the rain. "Please," she said, "I need your help. My brother is missing." Her name was Clara Reeves. Her brother Thomas worked as a banker and had disappeared 2 nights ago after leaving his office near the River Thames. Albert listened carefully. "Did your brother have any enemies?" Clara hesitated. I don't know, but yesterday I found this outside my flat." She gave him a small envelope. Inside was a black feather. Albert's eyes narrowed. This is more than just a missing person case. That night, Albert visited the place where Thomas was last seen. The fog was thick, and the streets were silent. Suddenly, he heard footsteps behind him. He turned, but no one was there. Then he saw it, a black feather on the ground near a drain cover. Albert lifted the cover and climbed down. Beneath London, in the old tunnels, he moved quietly. After a few minutes, he heard a voice, someone talking in a low whisper. He peeked around the corner and saw 2 men in dark coats. One of them held a lantern. The other pointed at a map. "We'll move the gold tomorrow," one said. "Make sure Reeves stays quiet." Albert's heart raced. He had found them. He returned to the surface and met Clara at dawn. "I know where your brother is," he said, "but we have to be careful. This is a dangerous group." Chapter 2. A Book of Secrets. 1 week had passed since Thomas Reeves was rescued from the underground tunnel. London was still covered in fog, and life on Baker Street returned to its usual rhythm. But Albert Finch knew the case wasn't finished. That morning, Albert received an envelope. No name, no address, just a small black wax seal. He opened it carefully. Inside there was a note written in strange, shaky handwriting. "You stopped the first move, but the game is far from over. The gold is not what it seems." There was no signature, just a drawing, a crow sitting on a crown. Albert stared at it. "This isn't over," he whispered. He immediately called Clara Reeves to his apartment. She looked tired but curious. "What do you think it means?" Albert showed her the drawing. "This symbol, I've seen it before, years ago, in a case involving an old society called the Black Crown." Clara frowned. "A secret group?" Albert nodded. "A very old one. Some say they ruled parts of London's underground world, crime, politics, even the police. They needed more help." Albert called his old friend, Samuel Graves, a 38-year-old ex-criminal who now worked as an informant. Samuel lived in the back of a pub and always asked for payment, in whiskey, not money. "I remember that crow," Samuel said. "It's their mark. If you've received this, it means they're watching you." Albert leaned forward. "What do they want?" Samuel shrugged. "They believe something is hidden under London. Gold, yes, but something older. A book. A book of codes." Albert's eyes narrowed. "Where is it?" Samuel hesitated. "Legend says, beneath the old Tower Library, but no one dares go there." Albert stood up. "Then that's where I'm going." That night, Albert and Clara wore dark clothes and entered the Tower Library grounds. It was closed to the public, but Albert had a copy of the old key, taken from an earlier case. Inside, the building was silent. The air smelled like old wood and ink. Moonlight shone through stained glass windows. They moved past rows of bookshelves until Albert found a loose stone near the fireplace. He pressed it. Click. A hidden door opened behind a bookcase. They stepped down into the darkness, holding lanterns. The stairs were narrow, cold and old. At the bottom was a stone room. On a wooden table lay an old metal box. Albert opened it. Inside was a book, covered in dust, tied with a black ribbon. He untied it. The pages were filled with strange symbols and old Latin words. But inside one page, a note in English. To find the truth, follow the path of the dead. Begin where the crow first cried. Suddenly, they heard a sound behind them. Footsteps. Albert blew out the lantern. They hid behind a pillar. Two men entered the room, wearing long dark coats, gloves, and crow symbols on their hats. Albert whispered, "They followed us." Clara gripped a small metal pipe. She was shaking, but ready. The men searched the room, then noticed the open box. "They found the book," one said. "But they're still here. I can feel it." Suddenly, one of them turned and shone a light on Albert's face. A fight broke out. Albert dodged a punch, grabbed a broken chair leg, and blocked an attack. Clara hit one man in the back, and Albert pushed the other into a wall. They ran up the stairs. Behind them, the men shouted, but didn't follow. Outside, the fog was thick and cold. Clara looked at Albert. "What now?" Albert held the book close. "Now, we find where the crow cried." Chapter 3. The Crow's Cry. The next morning, Albert Finch sat in his study with the old book on his desk. Rain tapped softly on the windows. Clara paced the room nervously. "We need to find where the crow cried," she said. Albert nodded. "It could be a place, a statue, or an old pub, anything." Samuel Graves entered, holding a wet hat and smelling of whiskey. "I've heard a name," he said. "Crow's Cry Alley. It's an old street in East London, forgotten by most." Albert stood. "Then that's where we go." That afternoon, the three of them walked through narrow, muddy streets. The fog returned, thicker than before. Dogs barked, windows shut, people whispered. They reached a dead-end alley. A rusty sign read, "Crow's Cry Alley." At the center stood a broken statue of a crow. Its eyes were missing, its wings spread wide. Albert looked at the base and brushed away the dirt. Letters were carved there. "He who seeks truth shall look behind the eyes." Albert stepped back and looked into the statue's eye sockets. Nothing. Then Clara noticed something. One eye has a crack. Albert pushed it gently. Click. A stone on the ground moved. They lifted it and found stairs leading underground. Again, down they went. Deeper and deeper into the ground. The air was cold and smelled like earth and metal. At the end of the tunnel, they found a chamber. On the walls were paintings of crows, crowns, and books. In the center was a table. On it, gold coins, maps, old weapons, and a mirror. Albert picked up a piece of paper lying beside it. It read, "Only the traitor's face will reveal the way." He frowned. Suddenly, Clara gasped, "Where's Samuel?" They turned. Samuel stood with a gun in his hand, pointing at them. Albert's eyes widened. "Samuel?" Samuel's voice was cold. "I had to make sure you'd find it. The Black Crown offered me something I couldn't refuse." Albert stepped forward. "It's not too late. You can walk away." Samuel laughed. "Too late for that." He pulled the trigger. Click. Nothing. Albert smiled. "You think I didn't check the gun?" He ran forward and tackled Samuel to the ground. They struggled. Clara grabbed the old pipe and knocked Samuel out. Silence returned. Albert breathed heavily. "I trusted him." Then he noticed something. Samuel had fallen with his head near the mirror, but his reflection showed a door behind him. Albert touched the wall behind the mirror. It opened. Inside was a small room. In it, a box made of black glass. Inside the box, a book, glowing faintly. Clara whispered, "What is that?" Albert opened it. Pages of ancient language, codes, and diagrams. "The true treasure," he said. "Knowledge." A week later, Albert handed the book to a trusted historian. The black crown disappeared into the shadows, and Samuel was never seen again. Clara returned to her teaching. Albert walked the foggy streets of London again, alone but wiser. And deep in the underground, somewhere in the dark, a crow watched from the shadows.